Okay, good morning, everybody. We are going to talk about capacity, as you can see. But just give me a few seconds. I need to go to the other side. Okay, and here I am back again. Now, we are going to talk about capacity. Now, capacity means how many this cup, for instance, can take. And now, many times people think that capacity is liquid only, or how much coffee my coffee mug can take, or how much water can I put into a can like this. But what we forget is mommy uses this measuring cup. Yours might even look like these, or you might have seen these, or any of these measuring cups that I have. Those are all different ones that you get, and yours might even look totally different than mine. Now, we use measuring cups to measure capacity, and it's not always liquid. It can be flour and sugar. That is just how much that container can keep. Now, we're going to start with the smallest unit that we measure in. Now, remember we did length, and the smallest unit we used was millimeters. And then we did centimeters and meters and kilometers. Now, we are going to start with the smallest one, which is a milliliter. Now remember the picture of I think it was in length that I've put a picture of Millie, the little mouse, and Kilo, the big elephant. Now this is the same with capacity. Now Millie is like the little mouse. Now if I can demonstrate this, I'm just quickly going to pour in some water in one of the containers just to help me a bit. Okay, if I pour some water in this container and I take a teaspoon and I just scoop a teaspoonful of water. Now this one is not totally filled up. Let me try it again. There you go. Alright, can you guys see that the water in the teaspoon? Now a teaspoon holds 5 milliliters. Now just imagine if I divide that water in the teaspoon into 5 equal pieces. I'm going to try to take a little bit off. There, little bit. It might be something like this. Can you guys see the water in the teaspoon? That is 1 milliliter. Now I think I have these measuring spoons. Okay, this is a quarter of a teaspoon, 1,25. Let's see if we can fill this up. Oh wow, that's almost a milliliter. Okay, see how small is a milliliter? Now, if we look at the containers, they have all these measurements, these lines, and quantities to show you how much liquid or whatever, flour, anything, I can put into this measuring cup. Now, we call it's calibrated. It's like the centimeters and milliliters, millimeter lines on your ruler. Now, ours is calibrated into milliliters. Now, one important thing is, remember when we start measuring with a ruler, we started with 0, and wherever your line or whatever you're measuring with stops. Now, with a container, because this one is totally empty, this is going to be my 0, nothing, empty, okay? And then as soon as you fill it up till that first line, that will be 100 milliliter, and 200, 300, and so on. Now, without peeping on that side, we now have to figure, what about, let me just use the spoon, what about my liquid will go to that line? That means it's in the middle between 100 and 200. So that will be 150. Now, this is where the problem comes in. Sometimes the kids will say, okay, 500, so it's 550. But then they forget it's getting smaller from the bottom, towards the bottom. So if I start 0, 100, 150, 200, 250, and so on. So always have a look which number is below, which number is above, so you can calculate what's the line in the middle. Now in this case it's calibrated into 50 milliliters each time. Okay, and this one can take up to 1,000 milliliters, and that is the same as 1 liter. Remember, that's converting. 1 liter is exactly the same as 1,000 milliliters. So you can either say, I drank a liter of cold drink, or I drank 1,000 milliliters of cold drink. Now the next one I want to demonstrate is this measuring cups. At the back it says it's holding 1 cup. Now 1 cup is 250 milliliters. Now let's see if I fill this up. Okay, that is a cup which holds 250 milliliter. Now this is one of my coffee mugs. Now without spilling too much, I'm going to try to move it over. There you go. Can you guys see inside the cup? It's not even totally full. So that's why we need to be careful if I want to bake cake and they ask me to use 2 cups of flour. Can you guys see where the water stops? It's about there. So if I'm going to use this mug of mine to measure 2 cups of flour, I'm going to have way too many flour in my recipe. So therefore, we have to have a measuring cup. Now, this other container that I have, measuring jug, this one says it holds 100, 150. Now this one they made it easier for you, so you just can read off. But can you see just to that line is 300. So I think if you almost go to the top, it might be 400. So if I'm going to put this cup into this one, it's supposed to be, can you guys see? I can't tilt it now. There it is, 250 milliliters. So if I go to this one and I pour it in there, it will show 250 milliliters. So the point I'm trying to make here is if I take this cup that's calibrated 250 milliliters and I fill it up into that one 250 milliliters, in that one it's exactly the same amount of liquid. But because the size of the way the container is made differs, it might look that as if you don't have the same amount. So if I should have a tall glass like this and I put this water in my tall glass, it will almost fill up to the top and you might think, oh no, now I've got more than a cup. So it's not about how the container look like, but it's how many, what the capacity, what's the volume that it can take. So be careful for that. So when you follow recipes, rather use a measuring cup. Okay, with the calibrations, I want to go back to this one. This one was calibrated into 50s on this side and 100, so it's easy to read from this. This side, this is American quantity, so we're not going into that. There they indicate it in the form of cups, so that's even more helpful. So if your recipe say 1.5 cup of milk, and there exactly 1.5 cups, so you don't have to use 1.5 cup of this. Another one, I'm just pouring the water from one to another so you guys can see. This one is a little bit difficult to see because it's not printed on. It's indented. There it says 2,000 milliliters. Now if we say 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters, now 2,000 milliliters will then be 2 liters, correct? And then there's my 1,000, which is a liter. So this is 1,500, which is halfway between those two, so it's 1.5 liter. So 2 liter of milk will fit into this. You know those boxes? 2 liter of milk will fit into this. This one that's holding this container, let me just get rid of this water quickly. This measuring cup that's holding 1 liter will fit in 2 times into this container. So that's when you want to measure lots of things. And then I showed you these measuring measuring spoons, that's a 1/4 teaspoon, and that is a 1/2 teaspoon, that is 1 tablespoon. You will see if they write it, let me just get my marker, if they write it, I hope I'm writing it the way around. Maybe I should just turn it. Yes, I did it the right way around. What happened here? I missed some water. Let me just try it up. If I have, oh, this one is not working. Okay, if I have this or if I have this. Okay, this is a teaspoon and that is a tablespoon. So when you read the recipe and they're using the lowercase t, that is for teaspoon and this is for tablespoon. But while I'm talking about the teaspoon, we get lots of different fancy teaspoons. This is a standard teaspoon. So if you have to take 2 teaspoons of medicine. You fill up these, you will have the right amount of medicine. But then I have this one. And I have one in a heart shape and all kinds of different ones. So be careful not to just use anything. This one says a teaspoon. So the quantity inside, the volume that this pink spoon can hold is exactly the same as this teaspoon. Okay, this one will totally be wrong. You won't drink enough medicine. Okay, now I quickly want to show you, okay, you guys all must have seen a 5-liter bottle. So I can take 2 of these, which are 2 liters, and 1 of these to fill up this 5-liter bottle. And so we can continue. Now, if I'm not going to do this now because it's going to take too long, but if I take this measuring cup, that's 1 liter, and I take 1,000 of these, and I put it in a container, I will have 1 kiloliter. So you will see they will measure oil for cars and boats, and tanks and ships, and the fuel that those big tanker boats are keeping and carrying from one place to another. They will use kiloliters for that. Also, your dad won't go and buy a kiloliter of cooking oil, for instance. We will use liters. So the 2 that we use the most will be liters and milliliters. So we said that 1 liter. And another thing you will see on the worksheets, mostly I use an L, but it's easier if you make the L in cursive, because then you won't get confused with 1 or L or the liter sign. 1 liter is the same as 1,000 milliliters. Oops, now how am I going to do this? Oh, I did it. 1,000 milliliters. So whichever number I write on this side, let's start with small numbers. 7 liters will then be 7,000 milliliters. 23 liters will be 23,000 milliliters. Can you see? In other words, when I convert from liter to milliliter, I multiply by 1,000. So if I work from that side to that side, and I ask you, I've got 7,000 milliliters, how many liters will it be? You divide it with 1,000. And that's all. You're not going to work with tens or hundreds or any of those that we did in length. We are just going to work with 1,000, and you need to be able to convert liters into milliliters by multiplying with 1,000, and milliliters into liters by multiplying with 1,000. Unless we get something like this, that we're going to turn it around. Say I've got 9,325 milliliters. Now, first of all, how many liters makes a milliliter? How many milliliters makes a liter? It's 1,000. Okay, I've got 9,000. So this one will be liters. All right, that one is liters. But what about the 325? They are not enough. It's not 1,000 yet. So I can say 9 liters, but those 325 still need to stay milliliters. Or, like we did with the kiloliters and kilometers and meters, we said 9,325, and then you can say liters, because it will say whatever is in front of the comma is my liters, and whatever is behind stays my milliliters, because there are not 1,000 enough to make a liter. I hope this was understandable. Watch out for the next video when I'm going to demonstrate how to make that brownie in a mug, and you guys can just follow me. I just want to show quickly, if I'm going to use the let me just get this. If I'm going to use these measuring cups, I'm going to ask you to use a quarter cup. That is a quarter of a measuring cup. Now, I have a nice one that says a quarter cup. But what you then do, you fill it up halfway, and then you'll throw out another half of those. But I will also, can also say that a quarter cup is the same as 80 milliliters. So if you have these kinds of spoons at home and you can calculate all the way to 80, that will also be quite helpful if you don't have any measuring thing indicating a quarter cup. Okay, see you soon, guys.